Hey guys, hopefully you can hear me. This will be the second time I'll have done this video. Oh well, maybe it gives me a chance to shorten it just a little bit. I know my last one I was supremely grumpy. I do apologize for that, but it was just one of those days. You know what I mean? It's so funny because the next day, it got everything rolling into what would be a pretty wild week, as you can see listed as kind of like a disclaimer on the post. So yeah, on Thursday, I called that older gentleman to set up a time on Monday to talk with him about a job. I mean, I'm going in there. I'm like, either which way it goes, I'm going to get a coffee. I'm not really that worried about it. And you know, he was like, "What? Okay, who?" Yeah, it was a bit wild. So I went ahead and I, set all that up. And I called and apologized to my counselor, and I explained to him, I'm like, look, the very first course of this 5 set of courses, the very first course as it's laid out, literally the names match what the entire course of certification is. I'm like, they literally match up. So I was confused, and it didn't necessarily take me to the next point. So I thought I was done, but everything's cool. It's been pushed back to October, but that's okay. Now I just need to buckle down and get it done, which I did not this week because it's been that kind of week. So we'll just kick it off into like Friday. I went in, it was baking. I mean, just all week. It had been like that for like a week and a half. The sleeping was hard. Everything was so difficult. We discovered, like, at one point in time, oh my god, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last post, but yeah, there was like hot air blowing into our room that was twice as hot as the air outside. It was already pretty hot outside from like a unit, and had been doing it for obviously 2 or 3 days, making that room even hotter. We called maintenance, we did all that, and then it stopped. It hasn't done it since. But I mean, it was sleeping was just not a thing. So I went on Friday morning, did my thing. It was freaking hot because it was like 97. And I mean, I'm getting out and I'm walking around, and I'm in a garage, so I don't have the sun beating down on me, but it was still pretty gnarly. So on Saturday when I went in, I was nauseous, I had a headache, I was just drop dead tired. And I put all that off to, it's just been a week and a half of this. And then I realized I didn't know what temperature it was, as in I could not feel temperature. I felt warm, but it's like not even 72 to 75 out yet, and I'm like, that's probably not accurate. And I realized the nausea is not getting any better. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is not going to work. So at 8:30 in the morning, I called my boss. I've been there for about 2.5 hours, and I realized if I'm starting out like this, it's not going to bode well for the next 9 hours. So I called my supervisor and I told him what's going on, and I was like, I'm going home, dude. And he was like, yeah, go ahead, go. Clock out. It's cool. I'm like, I'll be here tomorrow, but not today. So I went in and told admin, and it seemed that it had gotten around that, yeah, the contract had ended. And here I am going home on my second day there for my 3-day work week. But I explained the reason why. I guess I must not have looked good because they were like, bye. So it's, I guess it being my last weekend was kind of a surprise to everybody. And that was last weekend, not this weekend. So it was kind of a major surprise to everybody. And they were like, oh, yeah, I guess August 1st, they're restarting contracts and everything like that. And I'm like, maybe you guys are getting somebody in. I don't know. But I went home. My husband told me later that I looked terrible and I sounded like if I wasn't drunk, I was getting there. He was like, you know, you were slurred. He was like, it's like you couldn't maintain a thought. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So I did. I went and face planted, and I stayed down for most of Saturday. I went in on Sunday, and I was a little bit smarter. I found reasons to be inside the building where it's cool. And that's how I spent my last day there. Now, it was either on Thursday itself or Friday. I can't remember which day, but I did actually have to call, we will call him Mr. R, and set my time from Monday to Tuesday that I was going to meet up with him. And just cage a coffee is what I'm looking for. I mean, I let him park where he's not supposed to. He offered me a job, but I'm not anticipating any of that. So, you know, I had to call to reschedule because work's like, yeah, you're going to be doing this on Monday. Now, this I was going to be doing on Monday was me going to the site that my husband works at night and doing, like, the inside guarding there, which isn't a big deal. I don't mind that. The guy was, like, freaking out because I guess it took less than 45 minutes to train me. I got all of it. I understood exactly what was going on. I understood how the patrols worked. We have, like, a little phone. You have to go and actually, like, touch, like, this kind of marker to let the phone know you've been here. I even found some extra ones that he didn't know about or that he thought were lost. So I had a pretty good time that day. I mean, that guy was like, well, shit. I mean, hopefully they hire you here. Holy crap. That would be so awesome. And I'm like, yeah, I hope so. Still haven't heard anything from my supervisor. My contract ended. I was put here for one day. Still haven't heard anything. Okay. Nothing from him all day. The guy's freaking out. He thinks I'm excellent. They have a guard who will be leaving, so he's hoping to get me in there. My husband's like, yeah, I had to hear them sing your praises all night long, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I'm still waiting to hear from our supervisor. So on Tuesday, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to this meeting. In the end, I'll hear it out. Maybe I'll get a coffee out of the deal. Let's hope the gentleman even remembers me. He even said I'm 89 years old. My memory's not that hot. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll roll with it. I think his memory's a little bit better than he claims. He saw my face. He knew immediately who I was. He was like, I'm sorry I didn't recognize your voice on the phone. I'm really bad with voices. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I mean, I don't mind. So he sits down, and I ask him about, his wife, see if she's doing okay. I mean, basically, I feel like they're just for a chit-chat. Not looking forward to the next couple of weeks of waiting for my supervisor to get his ship pulled together so that I actually have a job. I mean, there's one being offered here, but, I don't know if, it's close to home, which is nice, but I don't know if I'm going to be taking any of it. And, he tells me, how it is. He was like, well, for the first month it's 16. I was like, ooh. Get paid a bi-weekly basis, blah, blah, blah. He was like, but, I own the place, but I don't manage it. That's my daughter-in-law, who I will call Miss K. We'll call him Mr. R. We'll call her Miss K. And he's like, I'm going to have you talk with her. She'll go over everything with you. And then I'll talk with you afterwards, and we'll see what's going on from there. So she comes in. The two of them start talking like I'm not even there. About me. Which, I'm trying not to, take personally, because this is what gets me. He's telling me how he doesn't know anything about computers, though he has a computer. It's pretty big, and it's on. His memory isn't that hot. But he kind of remembers our conversation. And it's even better. The man's 89 years old, but, it's even better because he's sitting there, he's talking to basically his daughter-in-law. She does a lot of the, office management, running of the place. And when he's talking to her, she is listening attentively. This isn't, I'm humoring him. this isn't, he's an old man, I gotta listen to him. This isn't, well, he's my father-in-law, whatever. She's listening to what he's saying, and she is taking it extremely seriously. And he's saying about how he met me, and he thought I would be a good fit. That, talk to me, find out what's going on, see if there's a way to get me on. I mean, everybody seems really, really calm. Everybody seems really mellow. Nobody's getting excited. Nobody's going, oh, these are what makes the job so great. But at the same time, I get this feeling like I'm being played for hard, which hasn't happened in years. So it's very, very flattering. So she goes to speak with me, and she lets me know, what all paperwork would need to be filled out. And we'd need you to start tomorrow. And I'm like, whoa. And she was like, I'm going to let you know. Any place that says they're all family oriented, I'm like, oh no, I avoid those places. She was like, yeah. She was like, we don't say that here. She was like, there really are no benefits other than pay. This is privately owned, but we still answer to the state. There's about 150 of us, scattered all through the state. But these things are privately owned, but they do have to answer to the state. So that's extremely serious. She was like, people who come here don't want to be here 100% of the time, just to let you know. So it can be an extremely rough environment. So, I mean, this is very refreshing. And she's like, yes, the starting pay is $16. You get paid every other week. She's like, a lot of people who've worked here for a long time. She was like, I don't care what you do at home. She was like, just don't do it in my parking lot. She was like, so if you drink, you smoke marijuana, something like that. She was like, marijuana is, still illegal by federal standard, but legal by state standard. Just don't do it here. She was like, we're going to do a background check. If you're a thief, don't be here. And I'm like, reasonable. I'm like, if you find anything when you run a background check, if I come on, please let me know, because I would like to know who is living my interesting life, because I am not the slightest bit interesting. I've had so many of these run on me, it's not even funny. I'm like, I am supremely uninteresting. But I'm like, I don't know, I still have to discuss this with my husband. She was like, okay, cool. And she was like, do you have any pros, cons, any comments you would like to make? I'm like, well, number one, you are telling me what's up, and you are doing it in a frank manner, and it's very refreshing. I'm like, most jobs try to play up how awesome they are. You are giving me the actual reality, but while telling me at the same time, people who work here are friendly. Everybody is awesome, but it can be rough. So you got to roll with it. I said, that's very refreshing. I said, my only two cons are $16 an hour. For the first month, from what I understand. She was like, yes. I said, and I understand why you're doing it. You're trying to weed out people who are unserious. And she was like, yeah. And I said, I'm getting paid every other week. So those were my only two cons. She was like, okay. She was like, well, stop and think it over. When you have a moment, when you decide, if you can come tomorrow, that would be lovely. She was like, if not, we'll start you on Monday. Okay. So I go to speak to Mr. R. And tell him, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, this is very refreshing, I just came to get a coffee, but I'm actually considering it. I said, these are my only two issues. And he was like, well, I tell you what. He was like, you get paid what? About $19.20 right now? And I said, yes, sir. I said, that's not really relevant, but okay, yeah. And he was like, I tell you what, you work for me, I will pay you $4 an hour extra on top of it. He was like, and I'll just pay you myself. And I was like, no, sir. That's, that's okay, and that's not fair. Like, nobody out there is getting that. And he was like, no. He was like, they're not, but they've been here a while. And he was like, I think you'd be a good fit. He was like, so you just tell me what your hours are, and I will write you a check. And I was like, I mean, that's very sweet. I said, that's lovely. I'm like, but I don't know about that. He was like, nobody's going to tell me what to do with my money. It's my money. I can do whatever it is I want with it. And he was like, so, if I can get you on here, he's like, that's what I'll do. And I was like, that is very tempting. It really is. Of course, I'm talking to a guy who has memory problems. So, I'm like, if I do come on, I'll have to bank on 16 for the next month. But I was like, I'll have to consider it. I do have to speak with my husband. You know, this is a matter of I am going from one job immediately into another. I said, so I do actually have to give my family a heads up. And he was like, not a problem. He was like, just let us know what's going on. Go ahead and speak with Ms. K, when you get a chance. He was like, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Or Monday at the very latest. I'm like, yes, sir. Argued with myself all the way home. And then decided that since I was arguing with myself, I'd pretty much made up my mind. So I spoke with my husband. He was like, the 16 an hour for a month hurts. We're already tight. He's like, we're already pretty much hurting. He was like, and because a lot of what we make gets poured into rent, gets poured into groceries because we have like 2 teenagers, and gets poured in the gas tank. So yeah, and we still have car payments, which, by the way, we only seem to have like 6 more before we're like done. Which is nice. Which is super nice. We only have like 6 more payments and then we're done. But yeah, he was like, whatever it is you want to do. He had the same objections I did. I don't like these 2 things, but beyond that, he was like, go for it. He was like, have you received a call from our supervisor? I'm like, no. I said, in the way I see it, 16 for a month is better than 2 to 3 weeks of nothing. And he was like, very true. Very true. He was like, so you got to call our supervisor and talk with him, which I did. I let him know. After I called Ms. K and told her, I will see you tomorrow. I called him and let him know that this is what I'll be doing. And there was none of the, oh, sorry to see you go, or darn, I had this lined up. It was, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but, good luck on your next job. Send me an email letting me know. Okay. So I started work on Wednesday. And it's Department of Licensing. No, we don't do driver's licenses. It's one of those where you renew the stickers on the back of your vehicle for your license plate. And I work essentially what is a drive-through. The place used to be a coffee shop, so they just decided to leave the drive-through in. So if you go ahead and you prepay online, just come through the drive-through. We double-check all of your information and just hand it to you. Bang, done, bye. It's kind of cool. So, I've also taken over mailing, so when somebody pays online and it needs to be mailed to them, I've taken that over as well. I told Ms. K, I'm like, I'm sorry I don't have this, and this ready, and she was like, well, we just kind of sprung this on you and dropped it in your lap, so I'm not at all surprised, but I told her I'd have the dates that I needed in the future, because she did mention, if you have anything that you need to get done, let us know. We do have Saturdays. You can make up that day on Saturday. And I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, if we have you work a Saturday, you get a day during the week off. I was like, this works for me. So I had all the days lined up. And by Friday, they have a computer there. I literally sent myself an email and then forwarded that email to that computer system that had my GED transcript, that had my resume, and had the references that she wanted for the files. And I went ahead and printed those up, and I had written down all the dates when the kids have dental appointments, things like that. And I had that sinking feeling on Friday that there was something I was missing. And I'm like, wait a second. What about their wellness checkups? Oh, I hope it's in September. No. One is this Wednesday, one is next Wednesday. But it seems that got worked out as well. I'll just work those Saturdays. I'm seeing if I can work half days on those Wednesdays. So far, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Mr. R seems to have enjoyed seeing me there. Like I said, I have not had anybody make a play like that for me in quite a long time. It has been a while. And as you can see, it has been a really wild week. Really wild week. Topped off with the fact that I got a comment on old fiction that I was actually going to yank. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned before, I have, like, you know, some Doctor Who fictions that are slash based, and that I couldn't figure out, because all these fictions, there are like 3 of them that seemed extremely similar but disjointed. It was almost like I was hitting the same type of concept, and then I realized, no, they're literally interconnected. Unthinkable is like the first portion of this universe, and one I wrote like yonks ago. I mean, the very first slash fiction that I wrote for Doctor Who, that right there is, it's like the second or third one, and I was gonna yank it, you know. And then, like, in March I received a comment to it where the person's like, I was having a bad day, I read this, I felt better, and I'm like, okay, weird, but okay. And then, like, on Friday night, I had somebody come up and, like, leave this long comment. When I first saw it, like, in my inbox, I was like, oh, they hated it, and they're gonna flame it, and damn, this thing is so OOC. Because I realize, just about every fiction I write is completely out of character. These characters would never do this in a million years. I know this. I have come to reconcile this. That's just the way it is. Another reason why I was going to yank it is because this is just too OOC. And then to boot, I have several more, like, little snippets for it that I've never bothered to post. Because who the hell's going to read this? Well, they did read it, and it capped off a completely wild, completely weird, and completely wonderful week. With a massive compliment to an extremely old fiction. We're talking 2011. That is so OOC, it's not even funny. And, yeah, it just completely made my day. I did receive something from my previous supervisor saying I'll come to pick up the uniforms from my husband on Monday, drop off his badges and stuff, that finally got done for him from all the blood work and everything else we did. And I let him know that, you know, apologies, I will be sending an official email, and I sent an official email saying that on this date, I self-terminated my contract, and according to the employee handbook, I'm not working for a place that conflicts, and I'm going to be handing everything in on this date to my supervisor. And yeah, he didn't seem to have anything lined up for me. And I got an extra ego stroke, besides somebody playing for me so hard, and people at the site I was working at being so excited before I, like, moved on to another job. Somebody loving a fiction enough to leave a long comment on it, and then to boot, from what my from my husband says, those people who were so excited to have me come and work the patrol are really super ticked that I wasn't assigned there, and that nobody heard anything on it after that day. What a week. And I managed to keep it down by about 4 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and be smart and sign off here, and then double check that it actually works before I post it. Because yeah, I did like 27 minutes, no sound. But as you can see, I'm around more often, so you should see me on a daily basis now, which is kind of nice. After I get done here, I am going to put on a thing of laundry. I'm going to go run an errand. You will see a post from me, and get used to these posts over the next month for Radio Free Monday. Please feel free to ignore it, but after paying rent, things were tight, and it's going to be tight all month if I'm getting paid $16 an hour. So, because that's like a $3 pay cut for me. So, you will see a post. Feel free to ignore it. Please do. But you'll be seeing those posts throughout the entire month, because things are tight, and they are going to remain tight the whole entire month, I'm quite sure. So I'm going to go run that errand, put on the laundry, make that post, and here it is. I mean, it is already... I'm about an hour behind because I had to redo this. No sound. So then I will come back and I will buckle down and I will get my schoolwork done. So at least I can say I did it. But yeah, it's been a wild one, and I'm really looking forward to learning more this upcoming week and keeping on top of everything, because I have a feeling that's going to be a little bit easier now. Believe it or not, I mean, I had loads of time on my hands, but it was like nothing was... My schedule wasn't set in a way that made things easier. So keep your fingers crossed for me. Take good care of yourselves. Take good care of each other. Know that I will see you all soon, and I love you guys.